Otherwise, we'll get echo. Okay, that's good then. That's good. No, we're good then. Okay, we call the meeting to order at 8:04. Please remain seated or stand for the pledge, whatever your preference is. We're going to stand here at Village Hall.
I have a flag across the street.
Allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty
Justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Yeah, if you turn your speaker down, you won't hear me twice. Why is my video not on? Sorry, guys. I wasn't going. All right. So, let me my agenda here. Roll call pledge. Roll call, Diane.
Ken Anderson.
Here.
Sue Filick.
here.
Bill Grabaric.
Here.
Chris Mondi.
Here.
Pat Schuberg.
Here.
Matt Wilson.
I don't see Matt.
He was here a minute ago, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He must have gotten dropped. And Jeff Walter.
Here. All right, we'll give Matt just a second to dial in. I need to double check to see if our Wi-Fi is any better here at Village Hall. I can't seem to get into the email, John, which is giving me a problem with the public comment for tonight.
Well, I've got a copy of it if you'd like me to go ahead and read it.
I've got the letter. I printed that, and I was just going to email the second piece that the person asked to be read in. That I can't get to, so you're going to have to read that in.
Okay. Are we ready to do public comment now?
Yes. Is Matt back?
No.
We'll go ahead and get started, and if he gets back, he gets back. So we received an email for public comment. The attachment was a letter that I've already discussed with the board on August. It was dated August 26, 2019. The person that sent in the public comment asked that the letter be read into the record, which I believe I did at that point, but we'll go ahead and do it again just in case. And then there's some comments to be added that John can read from the email, which I can't seem to get to. So the letter is addressed to me from the Village of Sugar Grove. RE boundary line agreement. Dear Jeff, the Village of Sugar Grove currently has a boundary line agreement with Aurora, Batavia, Montgomery, North Aurora, Plano, and Yorkville. We are proud of these agreements and believe they are in the best interest of the involved municipalities and the entire region. Boundary line agreements provide a basis for orderly, responsible land use decisions. We were pleased when Elburn representatives approached Sugar Grove earlier this year with a request to discuss a boundary line agreement. The subsequent February meeting between village presidents Jeff Walter and Sean Michaels and administrators Nevenhoven and Eichelberger was cooperative and cordial and resulted in what we believed was a consensus for a Main Street boundary line. In March, we provided Elburn with a draft agreement, copy attached. The Crown Community Development proposed distribution warehouse development I-88 and Illinois 47 has reinforced our belief in the value of boundary line agreements. In addition to Elburn, Crown shopped their project with Aurora, North Aurora, and Batavia as fallback options in case their demands are not met in Sugar Grove. Aurora, North Aurora, and Batavia rejected Crown's overtures and extended their boundary line agreements with Sugar Grove for an additional 20 years. We are close to approving a boundary line agreement with the Village of Caneville. We would like to enter into an agreement with Elburn. Our three communities share a vested interest in areas around Main Street, and we believe agreements will prevent Crown or any other development from attempting to leverage us against each other. We would welcome a joint meeting to discuss our three communities' interests if Elburn or Caneville are interested. We respectfully request that the Village of Elburn enter into a boundary line agreement with the Village of Sugar Grove at or near Main Street. Thank you for your consideration. Signed by Sean Michaels, Sean Herron, Heidi Lendy, Ted Cook, I'm not trying to K-O-C-H, Rick Montalto, Jennifer Conan, and Ryan Walter, who I will state for the record is not a relative. And John, if you'll read the piece from the email.
It's addressed to Village Clerk McQuilkin. I respectfully request the attached letter be read during this public comment at your May 18th, 2020 Village Board meeting, followed by my statement below. Since this letter was sent, Sugar Grove has entered into a boundary agreement with the Village of Caneville. Additionally, we are in preliminary agreement with the City of Plano to extend an existing boundary line agreement to 2040. While there has been change requesting a boundary line agreement between Elburn and Sugar Grove has not. Our communities discussed a line at Main Street in early 2019 based on an orderly, responsible community planning principles. These principles have not changed, and we are asking the Village of Elburn to enter into a boundary line agreement with the Village of Sugar Grove. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to listening to your board discuss this matter. Sincerely, Jennifer Conan.
Okay.
Village of Sugar Grove trustee.
Oh, that's who that is. Okay. All right. Is there any other public comment or anyone else wish to address the board? Nope.
We have not gotten any other emails.
All right. And Jake Bartleson, I see you're on this call. Do you have anything for the board? If you don't come off mute, I'll just move on. All right, we'll take that as a no then. I have no other awards or presentations. I need a motion then to approve the omnibus agenda, which tonight includes the village board minutes of May 4th, the committee of the whole minutes of May 4th, and the executive session minutes of May 4th.
Also move it.
Moved by trustee Schuberg, second.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Feilich. Roll call vote, please.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Sue Feilich,
Aye.
Bill Grabaric,
Aye.
Chris Mondi,
Aye.
Pat Schuberg,
Aye.
Matt Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda under mayor, just a couple things. John and I had a meeting last Tuesday with MediaCom. Things are going very
Metronet.
well. I'm sorry.
Metronet.
Sorry, not MediaCom. That would have been a whole different meeting with MediaCom.
Yeah, different meeting altogether.
Yeah, it would have been. With Metronet, and we talked about their timing. They are planning to light fiber in Elburn by July 17th and be out of Elburn by September. And they seem to be on track for that right now. Things are going well. They're working in 2 major areas in town, in Blackberry and then Prairie Valley. So a lot of people are seeing the digging going on. They have, 3 crews, I think, working right now, John, is what they told us. And they're kind of spreading those guys around. So expect to start seeing that around 7/17. We've had a couple, they went over their construction report, and they've had, I think it was 6 complaints. 5 were resolved the same day and 1 was resolved the next day. And then I think we've had 1 complaint over social media, and that was just somebody that didn't really get the word or didn't pay attention to the word once it was put out. I think Metronet's done a fairly good job of communicating between letters, postcards, website postings, little ground yard sticker things. I mean, they're letting us know they're here. But if you have anybody that asks, refer them to the Elburn 800 number. That's just for Elburn, and they'll take care of any problems that come up. So that's going on. Birthday parades continue as they have. We did another one tonight. Thanks to Elburn PD for participating in that. Sergeant Hare was there and the chief was there. I think this was the biggest one we've had so far, which was really great. I mean, there had to be, 50 cars? It was crazy. Fire department is no longer participating as they're getting back to normal operations, so they are not doing parades anymore, but those continue. So if you hear of anybody that wants for their child, I'm just going to say, not their 42-year-old daughter, and we'll get that to the parade coordinating people and get that done. That's all I have under mayor. Village attorney, I think I saw him earlier. There he is. Bill?
No report.
No report. Village clerk, Diane?
No report.
Village engineer, Julie?
Not much of a report, just actively working with Shodine on punch lists for both Elburn Station Unit 2 and Unit 1. And Anderson Road is out to bid, which, thank you to the village attorney for getting all the land acquisition done. Plans and specs are uploaded to IDOT's website, and thus far, the main players that have picked up are Deconstruction, Martam, and Plody. So that's good. Those are the type of contractors you want to see pick those plans up. Robotics, we're continuing to work on that and get you probably in about 2 weeks' time a draft of that, the rest of that scope of work, which would be a program and possibly a presentation on that data. And that is pretty much all I have at the moment.
All righty. And the email you sent me on the fundraising thing, we're still for the Lions Club to make their decision. So eventually we'll get something going. I'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
All right. Anything for the village engineer? Anyone?
No, that's it. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Nope. All right. We'll move on to administration. John?
I have a number of things tonight. The first one is discuss and approve resolution 2020-7, reducing the Class A and Class F liquor licenses. Those fees are normally $1,000 per year. Talking it over with the mayor, we felt that it's reasonable to do a reduction of those licensing fees for those businesses that were hardest hit by the government shutdown. Class A is all of our, basically the bars, Knuckleheads, Eddie's, Schmidt's, Elsie's, and Old Elburn Hall. And the Class F is the golf course. So it would take $1,000 fee and reduce it to $500 for this year.
All right. Do I have a motion then to approve the resolution 2020-07, reducing Class A and Class F liquor licenses?
I'll move it.
Moved by trustee Anderson, did I hear?
No, Grabaric.
Oh, Grabaric. All right. And a second?
I'll second.
What was that second? I'm sorry.
Chris
Chris.
Monday.
All right, great.
Monday.
Any discussion on the resolution? There's no discussion, and a roll call vote, please.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Sue Filick,
Aye.
Bill Grabaric,
Aye.
Chris Mondi,
Aye.
Pat Schuberg,
Aye.
Matt Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carries. John, you got something else?
I have a lease agreement for Elburn Station Lot 150. That would be between the village and Shodine. That is for Lot 150 is the park site, the big community park site, the 20-acre park site, and it had been farmed in previous years. And so the thought was now that the property has been transferred over to the village of Elburn, to continue to farm the north half of that lot. It basically keeps the land productive. It doesn't have to be mowed. We don't have to go after weeds. Don't have to do any of that other stuff. The farmer, who would be a subleasee to Shodine, would be the one that is responsible for the maintenance on the north half.
All right, do I have a motion then to approve a lease agreement for Elburn Station Lot 150?
I'll move it.
Moved by trustee
I'll
Anderson,
second it.
second by trustee Schuberg. Any discussion on the lease agreement?
So we're not sharing the cost of that. We get the full amount, right, of the lease?
We get nothing according to the lease.
Right, we don't get anything for it. Just basically we get insurance coverage.
Why wouldn't we be getting the lease money that Shodine's getting?
Because we didn't contract with the farmer.
But we own the land?
Yeah, we own the land.
That is true.
How much is farmland going for?
300?
I know we're leasing it for between $255 an acre to $285, depending on the quality of the land.
Yeah, and I've heard some leases going 300.
Do we know who's farming it?
It's been a contractor or a contract farmer that they've used for years.
Do we know who farmed it before? Thought we possibly would know who that person is.
I do not. He's been working with Shodin. My understanding is that he's been working with Shodin for years.
Okay. I thought that at one time I had heard, and maybe it's a different part of that parcel. Didn't Chris Gould know who farmed it, or his family did, or they used to?
Chris farms the land just west of there, that other lot, the one that showed.
Okay. Okay.
How many acres is this?
The entire lot is just over 20, so this would be in the neighborhood of about 8 to 10.
So we're only looking at about, well, I mean, not only, but we're looking
Oh,
at
there's
$500.
there's more than 8 to 10 that he's farming. You can see what he's tilled up. He's got. How much is the remaining portion it didn't farm? It's
Well, you
only like
can't see much now, it's all underwater.
right, exactly.
Well, I mean, if the board doesn't want to accept the lease, then we can vote it down and go back to the farmer and say, or go back to whoever, I mean, and say you're paying us for it, not Shodin.
It is kind of weird that it's our land, but because Shodin contracted the farmer, he gets the money. I kind of agree with Ken. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I agree.
The thought process behind it was then we wouldn't have to maintain it.
Right, but we could get a farmer out there and lease it. It's our land. I mean,
Okay.
granted, it's planted now, and it's income that could come in, and eventually, if the whole thing can be planted, it's 20 acres. That's $5,100 at $255 an acre.
Okay. Well, we can call the vote and vote it down, and then staff can go back to Shodin and the farmer and negotiate.
Because you said it's planted already?
It is.
Yeah, it's seeded.
Okay. So
Yeah, I
aren't we
think-
kind of behind, you know,
Well,
that's
yeah,
kind of
it's-
a little backwards in the first place.
Well, Shodin didn't ask. And so then
Right, so maybe
So
we
the-
have we could say to Shodin, you know, you want us to do this, but it's kind of backwards.
Mhm.
And Shodin should be paying us what he's getting from the farmer.
Yeah, I agree, Sue. It seems a little
It's just,
backwards.
it seems pretty cut and dry.
Do you want the whole rent amount? Do you want a portion of it? What would you like?
I'd like the whole rent amount.
Yeah, because I don't think he should have contracted work on our land.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense. He would say that to us if it were the other way around.
He's-
Yes, he would.
I'm with you, Sue.
So yeah, I think we need to readdress this for sure.
Okay.
All right, then let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, and then we'll direct staff based on the vote to go back to Shodin.
Ken Anderson,
Nay.
Sue Feilich,
Nay.
Ilger Barrick,
Nay.
Chris Mondi,
Nay.
Pat Schuberg,
Nay.
Matt Wilson,
Nay.
Motion fails. So John, we'll have a conversation. You'll have a conversation with Bob, and then he'll call me 20 minutes later.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he'll call you afterwards. That's no problem. I don't mind having those conversations with him.
No, it's fine. We'll do it, you know, the way we're supposed to. All right, anything else, John?
Not at the moment. We have more later.
Anybody have anything for John?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on then. Tom, building and zoning? No report. No report. I was going to turn my computer around so everybody could hear you.
I'm here.
Could you hear Tom when he said he's here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, Doug, finance. Doug's on the Zoom.
Yep, no report.
Nothing from Doug. Chief? And let me go on mute, Chief, if you want to use your microphone.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me or not?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
couple of quick things. We're seeing an increase in traffic enforcement over the last week. I know that had been discussed in the past a little bit, but we kind of gave some direction out. What was as long as they felt comfortable with resuming traffic enforcement activities, and we have seen an uptick in that over the course of the last week. So that is back, moving more towards normal. We have a statewide conference call tomorrow with the Director of State Police. That was, I received information today. His point of information is to put out directives and interpretations of the governor's emergency order in regards to the businesses and the misdemeanor offense that had been filed as an emergency order on Friday. So I'll be looking forward to see what he has to put out in regards to that. That will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That's for all the chiefs and the sheriffs in the state. The Police Commission last week extended a final job offer to Derek Bryja, who was our candidate that we had been in the process with the last couple of months. That would be the replacement officer for Officer Janito. I did speak with him. We have right now a tentative start date for him, and that's all going to be based on what happens with the police academy slot we have reserved for him. I've had that discussion with him, so he is aware that this is kind of in flux. As of right now, tentatively that date would be June 1st, and he would have a reporting date at the academy of June 16th, but that is not yet gotten final approval from the Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. So until they sign off and give that absolute final approval, that date still could change and potentially get moved out farther. One other thing I did find today, apparently we're gonna have some repaving work going on Route 47 this summer. Spoke with some women from IDOT Engineering out there today, and they told me they were marking the intersection cutbacks and said we should see paving work on Route 47 begin in 4 to 6 weeks. So
Where?
they are going to
I
be
saw them all.
Route 47 all the way from I-88 to Route 64.
Really?
Oh, my.
That is what the engineer
Really?
that I spoke with today told me.
Is it just repaving?
In our section, yes, it is just repaving. So it's just a grind and overlay, and they'll do some minor repairs. He said they might do some curb repairs and some sidewalk repairs in some spots. But that's all the information he had. I just, you know, if the schedule holds in 4 to 6 weeks to start, if we wind up having Elburn days and an Elburn days parade, it could be a little messy if that's going on during that time, if Elburn days winds up happening this year. So, but that's what they told me today. I saw them out there. So I believe that's about all I have for today, unless the board has anything.
Anything for the chief?
No.
All right. And we did receive a letter from IDOT last winter. I think I read it at one of the meetings. They were all their paving schedule. They had 47 on there, and then they just show up, but that's okay. It'll be nice to get it done. And speaking of Elburn days, they won't be making a decision until July 15th. So we've still got a little time till we hear whether that's going or not. All right, nothing else for the chief? Phil is not here. John, did Phil leave anything with you for Public Works?
I've got a few things just as a point of reference for that I-47 paving. They last came through town in the summer of 2012. So if you remember that, they fixed a number of stormwater issues that were in town. The stormwater pipes up on Main and Pierce, they had that all dug up. And if you've driven that 47, you'll notice that there's a lot of failure in the road in certain spots. It doesn't seem to line up with any stormwater, so it could be that it's just bad soils or something underneath, but they're aware of that as well, and we'll be making repairs accordingly. So Phil did give me a little bit of information. He says since last Thursday that we've had over 6 inches of rain.
Wow.
We've had a lot of I&I down at the treatment plant. The 4 pumps down there, they go at about 1,000 gallons a minute. They were unable to keep up, and the wet well area of the building ended up with about 4 feet of raw sewage, which is contained. It's just the pumps can't pump it up into the ditches as fast as the water is coming in. They had to do some work out on South Street. And if you saw that as well, the pond that was engineered out there to help slow down and control the flooding in that area, I think worked very well. It did stop its not borders, but it overtopped about 5 or 6 o'clock on Sunday and started going out downstream into the street, of which is a lot better than it had been in years previous, where that entire section of road would have been under a foot, foot and a half, or 2 feet of water. So really well contained. Did receive a number of resident complaints about flooding in backyards. That I saw were a lot of them were in Blackberry, which kind of makes you scratch your head, because it's a good modern stormwater system out there. And what ended up happening was people decided to plant trees and had lots of mulch out there, and it all clogged up the stormwater inlets, so the water couldn't get through and drain. So most of what happened out in that area was self-inflicted. There was a home on Reed Street. I believe this is the one that is on the southeast corner of Reed and Pierce. In that area of town, there is stormwater swales, some underground pipes. This one should have been an overland swale. Unfortunately, the swale was rather shallow, and instead of going down the hill following the street, Reed Street, down to the south, it veered off towards the house. So they put some sandbags out there and convinced the water to continue to move south. So overall, the stormwater system worked fairly well. There was a lot of rainfall in a short period of time, but that's pretty much it from Phil. So if you have any other questions, I'll try to answer them.
So just so everybody's got a perspective, I got this from a friend of mine at Water Resources, said that the top wettest Mays in Chicago area, 2019, we had a 8.25 inches of rain in May. 2019, and then 2018 we had 8.21 inches of rain. Right now in 2020 we have 8.2 inches of rain, and we still have 12 days to go. So in 3 years we will have the wettest May on record for the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was Pierce or Reeder, but Sarah Schroff had a little video of surcharging coming out of the storm sewer.
Yep.
Do we know what street that was on?
It was on
What?
Pierce, wasn't it?
Do we know what street that video was from, Bill?
I drove by today and I thought it was Pierce, but I didn't see a manhole in front of, it looked like one of the duplexes, and then it looked like Farine Guisti's old little Cape Cod. And I also drove down Reeder and to see if there was, and I didn't stop by and talk to Sarah because I had to get home and, get pretty for this meeting. But
It worked.
I don't know which one it was, but we do have that berm that we created in the back. And yesterday I did come down Reeder and talk to Leroy for a bit, and his side yard just kind of right by J Street where Reeder hits J. that was all flooded. He says that usually floods, but there was a surcharging either, it had to be either on, I think it might have been Pierce, but I didn't see it in one of the manholes there. There wasn't a full an open manhole unless it was lifted that cup. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Sarah, but I didn't talk to her since I saw that video.
Yeah, that's where our street survey is going to be come in handy as soon as it's finished to really decide what we've got to do up there. Because I saw an email from a resident in that area that said he sent an email to Dave Anderson when he was president and asked that something been done. And according to this gentleman, that nothing's ever been done. So he's going to send me an email, supposedly. I haven't seen it yet. But so, yeah, once we get the street thing done, maybe we can get some money set aside and start doing some things up there, at least to get the water out of people's basements and yards and such. So.
Yeah.
I did have a conversation with Phil. He's going to put together a plan or a discussion item, which will be on a future COW to discuss approving any landscape in and around easements. There's no one looking at easements, and people are putting all kinds of things in easements, and that's why these things are clogging up. So it's something to start thinking about. Do we want to take a stand on that? And if we do, what does that look like? So just keep that in the back of your mind, that'll be coming to a COW in the near future for us to kind of go over what do we want to do, if anything. Even in Blackberry Creek, the HOA approves any major landscaping, but they don't do anything if it's in an easement. I don't think they're even looking at that. So maybe there's something we can do working with them or whatever, but just something for everybody to start thinking about. I think in Cambridge, we've seen quite a bit of that where people have planted in the back and, roots have grown into sewers over the years. And it's one of those things that, and I don't know how other towns do it. Maybe Julie will have some input at that point, some best practices of what other towns do to keep their easements open and draining the way they're supposed to. So keep that in mind. That's coming to a COW near you in the near future. All right. Bill, the very large bills list.
Yeah, after I took a nitro pill to get my heart steady again. Anyway, Mayor, I reviewed the bills list. We do have that one big hunker, which is the last payment on that from the county, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so while that was $264,000, it's the last one we have. Anyway, aside from that,
Hang on one second, Bill. Doug's got something to add to this.
Everything to be in order, and consequently, I would move to approve said bills list in the amount of $471,418.03.
All right, before I ask for a second, Doug, do you want to give us your input there?
The $284,000 and change is principal and interest on the EPA loan that was taken out in 2016 for the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Okay.
And that's a 20-year loan, and the last payment on that loan will be in the year 2036. Then probably the one you're thinking about, Bill, is there's a $570 bill, 570, to Kane County Riverboat for the bond, and that is the next to the last payment for that bond. So the last payment for that bond will be in December of this year.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of, and I misspoke.
Okay. All right, thanks for clearing that up, Doug. We have a motion by Trustee Gerberick for the bills list. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Second by Trustee Schuberg. Roll call vote, please, Diane.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Sue Filick,
Aye.
Bill Gerberick,
Aye.
Chris Mondi,
Aye.
Pat Schuberg,
Aye.
Matt Wilson.
I was hoping for some discussion, but it's still an aye.
All right, we can open up some discussion. Go ahead.
I was just curious, there was, under EEI's line, there was change orders 1 and 2, which were clearly labeled up at the top for about 10,000. And then there was another line for change orders, just generically labeled 1 and 2 for about a little over 20,000. And I was just curious, I don't recall a bunch of different change orders coming through. If we know what projects those are for.
Doug, do you have that answer in front of you?
No, I don't. We have to talk to the department head or whoever the service was provided. I'm guessing that would be Phil. Maybe John can
No, I don't know.
comment
2
on
of
it.
them were streets.
Right.
The ones you're talking about, the 2 that are labeled for streets, right?
Yeah.
Right. For about 21,400.
Julie, do you have any insight?
I don't. Do you want, I can take a look at it to tomorrow. I don't know if you want to pull it off and pay it on the next round, or I don't know if that messes up your fiscal year budgeting or payments, but I can take a look into it and get back to you first thing in the morning.
Well, these are dated May 8th, so I presume they're part of the new fiscal year.
Well, the bills are dated
They're
May 8th, but we did billings through the end of April 30th too, because Village had requested fiscal year billings to be turned in ASAP.
The date on the invoice is going to post them to the old year, so.
Okay. Well, Trustee Wilson, if you want to wait, we can put that out.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was fine either way. I was just curious what it was.
Could it
All
be
right,
for
well-
Anderson Road?
That's the only change order that I can think of, unless.
Because there was 2 change orders for Anderson Road.
Mhm.
One was the sound survey, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's
one
what the
was,
10,000 was.
yeah, that one, there was one for the noise analysis as well as a little bit of budgeting to get us through to the end of the
Okay, got that.
project. And then the other obviously was the big one, which was for all the design.
I just assumed that was paid out in full since all that work was
Yeah.
already done for that change order.
All right, well, you want to research that for us and just
Absolutely.
let us know what that is?
Yeah.
And then I guess, I'll take it back to the board. We've had a motion. I mean, we've approved the bills list, and it's my fault. I didn't ask for discussion. But at this point, do we want to pull those out of this bills list and wait? Or are we okay with paying the bill and just let's find out what it was? Any input from anybody on that?
Why don't we just?
I think it's
withhold
cleaner
those
to
things
pull it out.
Subject to village administrator approval of those 2 items.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, I'll get y'all an email tomorrow with an explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will, and I don't know, Doug, can you send me just a bullet point list of what's in front of you? I mean, I can pull the bills. I should be able to identify it very clearly, but I just want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions of the finance department.
Yeah, I'll get those for you.
Thank you.
All right, so Diane, do we need to go back and amend the motion to approve the bills list? And then pending these 2, we'll let John approve them once we have an explanation to the board, or does it stand the way it is?
I guess it would be contingent upon explanation. I mean, so you're not removing them from the bills list at this point, right?
Correct.
Okay.
No, how about if we just do a reply, as a yes or a no to your email.
We can't vote by mail.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with John's, finding out what it is and getting it out to all of us. And then I don't think it's going to be anything we haven't possibly talked about. I don't know, but it's the board. What does the board want to do? What do we want to do? Well, wait, let it go when John approves it. Let John approve it.
How about if we just suspend our approval and our second pending John's review? I don't know if that's Robert's rules, but yeah.
I think we're better off to amend the motion and re-vote.
Okay.
Because if we suspend it, then we have to get all back together to vote on it.
Yeah, all righty.
If you can amend your motion to include.
Okay, so really we have to take off the, I'd like to amend my motion to remove change orders 1 and 2 from EEI regarding streets as found on page 4 of the bills list.
3 and 4.
There's one on page 3 too, Bill.
Hold it. Wait, let me get over there.
I think the 2 we're talking about that Matt specifically mentioned that you wanted more explanation on were the 2 on page 4.
Right.
Correct there, Trustee
The
Wilson?
$10,000 one, I thought we had, that was something that was negotiated between EEI and John, wasn't it?
Correct. The 2 at the bottom of page 3, we've talked about and rehashed. It's the 2 on page
Right.
4 that need to be set aside for now. The one's
Okay.
dated 5/8/2020.
Right.
Yeah, those are the 2
Okay.
that we're talking
Got
about.
it.
Okay. All right, then Trustee Schubert, you believe you seconded that as your.
Yes, I will agree.
All right, then
Yes.
Diane, you call the roll again one more time on this one.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Sue Filick,
Aye.
Bill Grabaric,
Aye.
Chris Mondi,
Aye.
Pat Schuberg,
Aye.
Matt Wilson.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, and then John will let us know what you find out tomorrow. All right, we don't have an executive session tonight, so any other business to come before the board?
I was just going to give you an update that the part-time police officers did ratify their contract. That will be coming back to the board on June 1st.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. All right, then, any other business?
Mm-mm.
To adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Trustee Mondi. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Second by Trustee Grabaric. Roll call vote, please. Or no, on this one, we just do a voice vote, right?
Right.
Yeah, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, aye. All opposed? All right, we are adjourned. I'll call the committee of the whole to order at 7:48 PM. Roll call, please. Diane.
Ken Anderson,
Here.
Sue Filick,
Here.
Bill Grabaric,
Here.
Chris Mondi,
Here.
Pat Schuberg,
Here.
Matt Wilson,
Here.
Jeff Walter.
Here. All right, any public comment? Anyone wish to address the committee of the whole? All right, we'll move on to discussion then. John, personnel policy manual updates.
So, one, I'll start off with an apology. All that information is sitting on my desk, but I think I should be able to go through it fairly well. A lot of the changes to the personnel policy manual this year had to do with legalization of cannabis and how that affects the hiring and testing and all that sort of good stuff. So that language had to be cleaned up. The other big changes were some additional language to FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. Sexual harassment had to come in there. That's now mandatory. That is state mandated that we conduct that once a year. And trying to think of some of the other big ones off the top of my head. There were no changes to employee benefits. There were no changes to really anything else that was out there. The one thing that we did change was the payout for sick time leave from the first paycheck in the fiscal year to the last paycheck in the fiscal year. The sick time is earned throughout the fiscal year, then it restarts on May 1st. So it didn't make sense to pay it out in the following fiscal year. So we moved it up to the last paycheck of the year. And just as some information on that, employees are allowed to accumulate up to 288 hours of sick time. Anything over and above that, coming up towards the end of the year, is paid out at the going minimum wage rate in effect for the state of Illinois.
All right, any questions for John on this one? Anyone interested in moving this to consent for the next meeting, or do you want to take some time to review it?
And what you were sent in your package was just the pages that had changes to it, except for maybe some minor formatting changes. If you'd like a copy of the entire document, I'd be more than happy to send that out.
I was just wondering, the screening levels, are those, I know that's difficult, but right now, as far as the ability of anyone to screen whether somebody's been smoking pot, we can do those levels, you know, like 10 nanograms. That's pretty damn low.
That is something that I believe was state mandated at those levels, that they set those levels. Where that will come in is when we do a pre-employment physical, that we would send somebody out to do that. Right now, anybody that has a CDL is not allowed to smoke pot or have it in their system, which covers pretty much the entire Public Works Department. And Nick, if you want to speak to the police department rules on those, I believe by state law, cops are allowed, but there is some restrictions. You want to talk about that a little bit, Nick?
Yeah, as soon as I get myself unmuted. They are allowed under state statute to use them. You know, this is something that we have in the village policy manual, and then both the CBAs with the union mention random testing, you know, testing for cause. If we interpret or suspect somebody is under the influence when they report to work, we can order them to be tested. None of that language is asked to be changed. And in fact, obviously, the part-time officers just ratified their new contract on their end, and there was no discussion on changing any of that existing language that we had in there. So, but basically for us, it's for cause. If we suspect it, we can order them to be tested. And that would have to be done at an outside medical facility. We do not have the capability to test for that in-house.
Yeah, so right now it appears it has to be some sort of an instrumental analysis as opposed to, you know, a piece of paper you can blow into something. We don't have anything like that yet, I guess.
No, we don't have any street level or field chemical tests for that right now.
Yeah.
unlike what we have for alcohol. We just simply have our interpretation of it, and then, you know, we can have the officer, you know, do field sobriety tests or whatever. If we suspect that they're under the influence and we don't smell alcohol or anything, then we would have to order them for drug testing. Same as what we had done in the past, basically.
Yeah. Just curious.
Where did the 8 hours before your shift and 4 hours for alcohol and 8 for marijuana come in?
That, for alcohol, I believe that follows CDL. And that's something that has been in there for a long time. So I don't know where exactly it came from, but that's been in there since we've had that personnel manual.
And then the 8 hours is just added for marijuana, then?
Yes.
Well, yeah, that depends what the quality, I would imagine. If you're smoking ditchweed, you don't have to worry about the 8 hours.
Always scares me when Bill knows more about this than any of us.
It's just that I have a curiosity historically as to those items. It's, I never inhaled.
All right, so Chris, did you want to do some more research into this and bring some other stuff back, or you have any other questions on it?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Anyone want to move this to consent, or do we want to wait? All right, we'll just leave it on. John, bring it back at the next board meeting for a vote then.
Will do.
All right, internet services.
Internet services. I really wish I had my agenda with me, but I'll have to do this off the top of my head again.
Well, I've got the numbers here, so.
Okay, we've been looking at doing a number of, options for better internet service at Village Hall. And the more we got into it, the more it became apparent that some of the things that we really need to do is we got to get Public Works. That connection is old. It's about 20 years old. We'd like to get that upgraded to fiber or to new fiber. It's currently is fiber, but it's old. And so we started looking at a number of different providers out there. One of the most obvious ones that came up was Kingland. They've got fiber that runs right in front of us and getting onto their system. They're connected to Northern Illinois for their internet service, and thought, well, this would be a great way to piggyback off of something that's already been done by a public body in the area. Everstream came to town. They are a business provider of fiber internet, and got a quote from them. They were rather expensive. Got a quote from Mediacom as well. They were rather expensive. Started talking with FutureLink, who provides us with wireless internet service right now. I asked them about 2 weeks ago to provide me with some information as far as what they could do for us at Village Hall and how they can our remote buildings, and I still have not received that information. Metronet has come to town. They're installing fiber right now. Talked with their business fiber internet folks, and they have given us some of the best pricing that I've seen out of all of those options. And in fact, I believe the number I have on my spreadsheet shows that it's at $850. And that's for the top of the line, everything that they offer for us. And quite frankly, I don't think we quite need that. So if I remember right, that would drop it down about $250. We could have internet at 225 meg service and then 50 meg service in between the buildings. And I believe that works out to about $600. How's my math on that, Jeff?
You had business fiber at 300 meg at $250 a month, and then fiber WAN 100 meg at 600 for a total of $850 a month.
Right. So if we drop both of those down to the lowest ones for 225, I believe was $200 a month. And then
200.
between the two buildings, it was how much?
300.
300. Okay. So we'll bring that down to $500 a month. One of the things that we're trying to accomplish is one, trying to build out a GIS system. We're going to need big pipes to be able to do that. We'd like to start storing our data up in the cloud so that we don't have it sitting at Village Hall, that we actually have it someplace that's remote and accessible in case something happens to our building. We do need to upgrade our connectivity between Public Works and Village Hall. What we don't have is a two-way link between the treatment plant and Village Hall. Village Hall is kind of the hub for our entire network. And having the ability to take the SCADA systems that is out there and have it available at the Public Works admin building, I think is incredibly important. Trying to get that information out onto the web, that someplace where our folks can access it securely, is also important. So I'm trying to knock out a bunch of different items that we've been talking about over the years. In the last couple of years, even in the strategic plan, we talked about building out a fiber WAN. And I realized that was more for village-wide. But I think now that MetroNet is here, that we can do that with the village purposes. We've got cameras out at Metro right now that we can call up on an app, and those pictures are absolutely beautiful. If we ever start doing more cameras throughout town, whether we add more at Village Hall, we add them out at the treatment plant, we add them out at our wells or our lift stations, we're going to need a way to get that information back to us. Also, when we had been working from home, one of the shortfalls that was identified is if you had great internet service at home, it bottlenecked trying to get into Village Hall. That was something Doug had found out. Trying to download files, just trying to access the file server was incredibly slow. And so we're looking to get more speed and a bigger pipe. And even at the 225 meg, which is the lower end of the service, I think that's where I'd want to start. Our service right now at Village Hall ranges any place between about 10 and 15 meg compared to what they want to provide us at 225. So basically what I'm looking for is permission to go ahead and move forward with MetroNet. They won't have service available to us until sometime about mid to late July, but I'd like to go ahead and get that going.
Any questions for John?
No, we're going to need more speed as management gets more technical, between GIS and everything else. Yeah. So,
Well, they're certainly the best price. I mean, there's no question about that.
yeah. We don't need a gig, the 1,000 megabyte. We don't need that. Maybe at some point we will, but not at this
Maybe
point.
so, and that's why I want to start with the 225 to see where we're at with that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Anybody opposed to letting John go ahead with MetroNet?
No.
No, I think it's, at the price, I think it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there you have it.
Do we have any idea what it would cost for the cloud though, for the amount of stuff we have to put up there?
We're working on getting that information. It depends on how much data that we have and how much redundancy and security and. So
Yeah.
it's not a simple, it costs you this much. There's a number of factors that go into that price.
And is that going to be through MetroNet or somebody else?
Somebody else.
Okay.
That would be like one of the big data centers, whoever the heck is running them. Yeah.
Right. We could rent space either from Google, Microsoft, Amazon. There's a bunch of resellers out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything on internet? Nope. All right. Next on the agenda is kennels, and I'm going to turn it over to Tom here in a minute, but I want to give a little backstory on how this got on the agenda. So there was a Blackberry Creek HOA meeting, which they happened to conduct via Zoom as well. And you all know Carrie's the president, and she was in her office having the meeting, and I was listening in. And one of the members of the Blackberry Creek board mentioned that the Elburn ordinance on what is considered a kennel and what is allowed in residential is a combination of 3 dogs and cats. Anything over that is a kennel, or considered a kennel, which you can't have in a residential area, I found out. And I think that ordinance is probably quite old. And I think we also have a lot of people now that foster animals. So they might have an extra 2 in their house for a period, and myself included. I'll throw that out there. We foster, and sometimes we have 2 extra puppies running around the house. And we certainly don't have a kennel license. So I thought I would, I talked to Tom, talked to John, so we need to figure out what the right way to go here is. The HOA wants to enforce the village ordinance as what they're going to tell people in Blackberry Creek is you can't have more than 3. I'm sure there are people that have 2 dogs, 2 cats, myself included. So I thought we would bring it back to the board and see if the board is interested in changing that, leaving it as it is, taking a look at maybe doing something different for fostering. Because I know there's a lot of different fosters that operate in Elburn, and there's cat fosters as well that go on, which would, I'm certain, put people over the limit as well. I think it's just one of those old ordinances that's been out there a while that may need to be cleaned up. The computer on to Tom here, who's sitting next to me with a nice big squeak.
Yep.
And it's all yours.
Yeah, it's always been kind of an ambiguous and vague description of what a kennel is. As Jeff mentioned, it's not allowed in residential zoning, but it is a special use in the B2 and the CM districts. You can see the definitions that I've put in the packet of what our zoning ordinance defines it as, what Merriam-Webster defines it as, and the annual license is $25 for a kennel. So, we're not talking about a lot, but it doesn't come right out and define what a kennel is in our zoning ordinance to the point where it discusses fostering animals.
So anybody have any thoughts, comments? Do we want to leave it? Do we change?
I guess I'm not really sure how would we change it to protect somebody that's fostering, I guess would be my question, because I'm definitely not opposed to people doing that, but at the same time, we definitely don't need people, with a dozen adult dogs on their property, which I don't think that's the case or an issue here, but.
How do you enforce it?
That's the challenge.
I don't know if we do a great job enforcing it the way it is, to be honest with you.
Right, I'm just saying, how, we don't, it's all complaint driven. And then you gotta have proof of a dog, so who's gonna be our dog whisperer and checking it all out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you even get on
those-
private
dog
property
catcher.
and check it out?
I don't know if you guys heard the chief, but he said the community service officers would be the ones that would investigate it.
Okay.
I know, but.
And is it gonna be just dogs and cats? Are you gonna add anything additional, or I think if you were gonna add up, I'll try to speak so everybody can hear me. If you were to think of adding anything in it, for clarity's sake, we would probably wanna specify a number, and then I would say probably any number at any given time maximum combined between household pets and shelter, fostering pets or whatever, not to exceed a limit. And so we have a set number in there that we'd be dealing with.
Right, and our ordinance as written does not include anything, a description of therapy animals.
Which can we even, just like that? I mean, it's
No.
kind of a.
No.
Yeah, so what do you do with service dog type trainers? who may have, maybe breeding them,
Well, that would be a kennel, and I think that I don't think you would do that at your house. I think that would have to be a true kennel.
Yeah, that goes back to the Merriam-Webster definition.
Well, it's really the breeding or boarding for profit of some sort, or for, do you get paid for fostering?
No,
You
no, you
foster
don't.
families?
Not that I've ever heard of. I know we don't. I don't think any of the other fosters do it. It's all volunteer.
Yeah.
Do we have any sense? Do we have any sense of how other communities surrounding us handle this?
I can check around. It's not a hot topic. So I can certainly do a little research on it as far as some of the neighboring communities.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of complaints or just this one?
No, it wasn't even a complaint. What they want to start doing is telling people that this is the limit, right? You can't have more than 3 dogs or cats. So that would preclude a lot of people from fostering, myself included. So I'm trying to find a way to support that foster system and make sure that the HOA and anybody else that asks, that the ordinance that they're falling back on allows it.
Jeff, when you foster, what is the typical length of time you have a foster dog or animal?
With the puppies, we usually do puppies, it's 2 to 3 weeks because
Okay.
they have to be in your house for 2 weeks, any foster, because they have to have a vet check, and that's the state law on fostering.
Mhm.
That they go up for adoption, and depends on, the age and puppy, breed, whatever. They'll go anywhere from a week or 2 after that. The longest we've ever had was 10 weeks. But I've heard stories of other people that have had them 2-3 months. It just depends on the dog. But.
So since you have state requirements to foster, I mean, couldn't the limit kind of stand as the pets you own the same? And then, I mean, address it as like the additional pets you have there are foster, and there are guidelines for how you do that already set in place?
We don't have that in the village. I mean, our ordinance says if you have more than 3 dogs combined.
So then maybe our language should say something, because I mean, I know a lot of people who are awesome and foster. It's a great thing. So to add something about, may exceed when fostering or something like that. And then, does everybody else think that sounds normal?
Why don't we look at what other villages are doing as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, incidentally, the Fox Valley Wildlife Center has now officially merged with Anderson Animal Shelter, and Anderson has that property over on Harley, which is going to be horses and domestics and wild and exotic birds and all that stuff. So, and we're kind of in the middle of more animal enterprises in this area. So, Anderson's always looking for when they get extras for some fostering.
Well, we foster for Safe Haven, and in Blackberry Creek alone, I know of at least, I think 5 or 6 different families that foster. Some don't like we do. Some just do single mature dogs, but there's dogs all over Elburn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so if you'll take a look at what other towns do, how they address it, if at all. I come back and we'll kind of hash it out from there and see where we.
Yes, definitely.
All right, anything else on kennels, fostering, or anybody want to become a foster? I'll get you signed up.
No, not right now.
I think the Mondi house could use a couple of fosters.
I've got a 53-year-old son living with me yet, so that's enough fostering for right now.
We should have an ordinance about that. All right, Doug, I believe you are up next with the front counter partition, or John, are you taking this one?
Doug's
Yeah.
got it.
I'll
All right,
take that. There's some safety considerations at the front counter in the administrative side of Village Hall. And what we're proposing is to install some glass partitions almost exactly like what is on the police side of the building. So it would be very, very similar, if not exactly similar to what's on the police side. So it'd be a glass security panel from the top of the counter up to the ceiling, and then it'd be a slots in there so people can hear on either side, and then pass their water bill payments through to the ladies on the other side. So what this will do is it'll prevent somebody from reaching over the counter, and it'll provide a lot more safety for our ladies that are working at the front counter. We have sufficient funds in our budget to pay for that. And there's an invoice, not an invoice, there's a proposal in your packet from Geneva Glassworks. Geneva Glassworks is the company that installed it on the PD side. Well, it wasn't Geneva Glassworks, it was another company in Geneva who has since been absorbed into Geneva Glassworks. So we're confident of their ability to do a good job and to provide a quality product. Any questions about that? There's no motion required on this because it's below the approval level for department heads. So I just wanted to bring it to you tonight to make you aware of what we're doing and see if you have any questions. And
Yeah, Doug, can we apply for a COVID-19 reimbursement on this one, since this is really what drove this whole discussion?
Yeah.
We're doing this to help with that. I mean, it's not PPE. Well, it is kind of PPE, but no.
well, I mean, we could certainly include it in the list, and it may get approved. It may not. But it certainly could be included as a legitimate COVID-19 expense.
When would this be installed?
When would it be installed?
Yes.
Soon, I would think. I
Okay.
I can't tell you the exact day if that's what you're asking for.
No. I mean, it's not going to be months from now. It's going to be soon, right?
Yes.
Will this eliminate, or will this help with the public needing to do business at Village Hall, pick up bids and permits and pay water bills and things like that? Or will we still have to have the building closed and then put things in the cardboard box in the lobby?
That's a John question.
It's part of it, of why we started thinking about the partition, is so that we could get the front doors open again and still provide us with a level of separation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So like I said, there's no motion needed on this. So if there are no objections, we'll proceed with this.
Will this go entirely to the ceiling as far as the door? It'll be blanked off on top then, or?
Well, there's a metal frame that'll go along the top, the very top of it, that the glass will fit into. And then on the bottom side of it is also a metal frame. And so, yes, it'll take up the entire space from the top of the counter to the ceiling.
Okay, and then there'll be a little swing door or half door our Dutch door will be replaced with a full
Yes.
door?
Yes, it'll be
And that-
replaced with a full height glass door.
Okay.
Exactly like what's on the police side.
Okay.
Okay.
Does this quote, Doug, include the security hardware for that?
I don't know what you mean by the security hardware.
Well, we'll have to have a new reader and the automatic lock and all the pieces.
Oh, a key fob,
Yeah,
that we will transfer the one that is on the wooden door now. We will transfer that one to the new glass door.
there's a key fob on the,
Yes, one installed.
I
So,
guess I always come in the back.
and that setup would be the same as what police have. The police have no electronic lock on their wooden door, and we would transfer the electronic lock we have on the admin wooden
It's
door.
outside.
We would transfer that to the glass door.
Okay, and then what, did you guys take your wooden door out?
No.
It's still there? Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right, any other business to come before the committee of the whole? I have a motion then to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Moved by trustee Mondi, second.
I'll second.
That was trustee Filick, I think I heard there. All in favor
Yes.
by saying aye.
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 All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.